name is Paul Macri, Certified Executive Chef, Instructor at the Texas Culinary Academy in Austin, Texas. Today we'll be fabricating 8-cut chicken. The 8-cut chicken is 2 chicken breasts, 2 wings, 2 thighs, and 2 drumsticks. And optimistically, a nice clean carcass. Alright, so we begin with 2 chickens. Today we call them Hansel and Gretel. This is a fabrication how we receive them. You may receive them in some different container. As you can see, they have a little bit of natural juices on the surface. This is completely normal. This chicken also has some small pieces of skin attached to the drumstick. These are also completely normal. You don't have access to running water. This is where we go ahead and wash the chickens. When you wash the chickens, you want to wash inside and out. Chickens, although they're delicious, they are somewhat dirty animals. So under cold running water, fill the cavity with water, turn over just to make sure that all the extra processing bits come out. 1 time is good. Let the excess water drain away and put on an acceptable receiving platter. Now remember, when you put on gloves, you can't put on gloves over a dirty hand. That makes the outside of the glove dirty that you just put on. Therefore, wash your hands first, then put on the gloves. When you put on the gloves, they should fit somewhat snug, but not so tight they cut off circulation. In setting up your station, we refer to this as mise en place. Mise en place is where we have everything in its place. You see I have here a pan of crushed ice. I have Ziploc bags for storing my product with the edges folded back. This way I don't get any impurities or anything inside of the sealing area. Go ahead and settle these into the ice, ready to receive the product. Since I have 2 bags, one will be for usable meat, the other will be for carcass. Now let's talk about the chicken. The chicken is set up really in two equal halves. We have the 2 legs and thigh sections, we have the wing sections, and the breast. Now if you turn the chicken over, you can see that the wings are very close together. This is an indication that this is the back of the bird. The legs also come close together. This is an indication of the back of the bird. Also, as you see the tail section here, a dead giveaway that you're looking at the back of the bird. All right? Now, you'll also notice that in the cavity section, there are these little deposits. We refer to this as adipose fat. Adipose fat is fat that's just collected tissue. We go ahead and remove this because this really just gets in the way. This goes on to waste. We put this with carcass. Now that we've identified all the parts of the bird, we notice that the bird is a little bit slippery. Slippery birds are dangerous birds. We definitely want to dry those off. The best way to dry them off is with clean white towels. Just dab them. This is kind of like after you take a shower, you dry off. Well, the chicken just had a bath, therefore he needs to dry off. You see the skin now has gone from that glossy, slick look to now it's kind of a dusty, almost dry look. That's really where we want to be. Notice my finger doesn't slide over the surface quite as easily. Makes it a lot safer for you. Now comes the best part, choosing the knife. Knives come in all different shapes and sizes. This knife is referred to as a boning knife. There are 2 types of boning knives. There are flexible blade boning knives and stiff blade boning knives. Stiff blade boning knives are used for this purpose here. Flexible blade boning knives are ones we use for fish and taking skins off of seafood. Now, notice the blade is very stiff. This is where you want to be. This gives you more control and allows an easier fabrication of the chicken. We want to begin by sitting the bird up as if he's listening attentively. And now we have to open up the neck area. The neck area of the bird is the one that's closest to the wings. You see, as you look inside of the neck area, there's a line of fat. This line of fat is what indicates the location of the wishbone. 2 ways to remove this. One way is to take the knife and scrape down on that bone. The wishbone is very close to the surface. Scraping down, I get to the bone very quickly. Reach in with your 2 index finger and thumb, rub either side of the bone, and then the bone presents itself. You can see it right there on top of my finger. This is one side of the wishbone. The wishbone has 3 points, 2 that connect at the shoulder, 1 that connects at the keel bone. Again, 2 here, 1 here. Let's repeat the process on the other side, exposing the bone, scraping side to side until you hear it. know if you can hear that. Did you hear that? Yeah. Now, index finger and thumb on either side, and then it's now exposed. Now, grabbing both sides of the wishbone, meet those two fingers at the breast. Pull straight down, and the wishbone comes out. Okay, now we're ready to begin the fabrication itself. Now that we've done this preliminary step, one of the reasons we like to remove that wishbone first is it creates a much cleaner breast finish. Whether you're doing a whole roasted chicken or whether you're taking this chicken breast off for a simple sauté preparation, you want to have as clean and full a cut as possible. As well, when you finish with fabricating the chicken, you want to have as little meat left on the carcass as possible. This facilitates both of those ends. Now, let's begin with the legs. I like to leave the wings on at this point when I'm removing the legs. It gives a little bit of stability to the carcass. If you take the wings off first, you have something that's kind of roly-poly, and that doesn't work so well. Now, you notice that there's a little flap of skin there that's connecting what appears to be the breast to the leg. Well, it's true, but it's at the tail end of the breast. This is an indication of where we want to cut. This is so that we get a nice coverage of fat on the legs, so for any preparation, we have a nice coverage of skin. Okay? With the knife, holding the knife is as simple as grasping with your thumb and forefinger and let your fingers naturally wrap around the knife. Again, thumb and forefinger, let the fingers naturally wrap around the knife. What this does is this gives you a lot of stability with regard to holding the knife, and you have no chance of the knife twisting out of your hands. Should you hold the knife with just the handle, the knife can easily slip, and since chicken is fatty, we don't want to have any chances of that to occur. Okay? So, holding the knife correctly, thumb and forefinger, fingers wrap naturally around the handle, make one small incision at the leg. Now, as you see, it opens up and creates what we refer to as a natural seam. This natural seam is one that separates the leg tissue from the breast tissue. Follow this natural seam all the way down to the pelvic joint. The pelvic joint is situated right at the opening of the cavity. You see right here. When you fabricate your chicken, feel this part. This gives you an exact indicator as to where the thigh meat begins and ends. Come in with the knife at an angle towards the carcass and make a cut towards the cutting board. What this cut does, turn the chicken up like this, it exposes that pelvic section. Okay? Do this to both sides. Make the cut, expose the natural seam, follow that down to the pelvic bone, and make the cut at the pelvic bone through to release the thigh meat. Now that we've established those natural seams along the thigh section, now it's time to get all burly on it. We're going to turn the chicken up on its back, put our thumb, you can see where the joint is right here, move the leg, you can see the joint, you can actually feel the joint. Place your thumb on top of that joint and fold it out. When you fold that meat to the side, you'll see that the ball presents itself. The socket is here, the ball is here. This is the ball and socket joint that makes the hip. Do this to both sides. Thumb, turn it out, and there's the ball, and here's the socket. Now you notice, this one, the cartilage just came loose. This happens, chickens are fairly young, 9 to 12 weeks at slaughter, so the bones haven't quite ossified. Ossified is a fancy word for turning to bone. Okay? Clear? Good. Now what we'll do is start at the tail section. Remember the tail is where we saw it here. Take your knife, again holding correctly. Lay the knife against the pelvic bone and make your cut down just till you clear the ball and socket joint. You see the socket joint is right here. Socket joint right here. Now, grasping index finger over the ball, pull straight down along the chicken, and the oyster presents itself. The oyster is that little nugget of meat that's never used on the bird. The French refer to this as solilé, which means shame to leave it. But in proper fabrication, you always remove the oyster. Okay, pull down until the oyster is completely clear. Lay the knife on the carcass, bring your hand out of the way, and remove the leg section. Okay, into our bag of ice product, repeating the process. Now, there's no reason to be a contortionist here. Turn the chicken around. If I'm right-handed, so I do it on the right side of my body. Again, holding the knife correctly, come inside the pelvic bone, come down to the ball and socket joint, just till you clear it, holding the carcass, index finger on the outside, pull straight down, the oyster is removed. Pull straight down, you see that the bone is nice and clear. Lay the knife here, bring your hand out of the way, and remove it. As you see, we have two identical processes.